Hello and welcome back to the next section on mindfulness. This week we're going to talk about how this practice will actually change your brain function and structure to help you make new choices and change your behavior that will eventually lead to a life of optimal health. Enjoy. One of the best ways to begin to understand mindfulness is by getting to know its opposite, mindlessness. Synonyms could be zoned out, spaced, automatic pilot, distracted, multitasking, and reacting. It's probably easy to recall a time when you felt like you were going through the day on autopilot. Maybe you woke up, brushed your teeth, ate breakfast, drove to work, and then when you got to your desk had no meaningful recollection of how you got there. It's not uncommon to have these experiences, and there's a significant body of literature that defines exactly how this sort of thing can happen to us. Acting mindlessly is easy. It might feel safe and familiar, but it comes at a cost. First cost is that limited freedom. If you're living on autopilot, you're not making new and life-affirming choices about what you really want. You're just reacting to stimuli in an old and habitual way. You want something different, but you can't break out of your conditioned patterns and programming so that you can actually get it. You might feel stuck inside a box. It's easy to get trapped in a fixed or rigid mindset where you only see things through one narrow perspective, which blocks any hope for creative thinking. There's going to be a sense of greater inner conflict. Without mindful observation of your own thoughts, it's easy to feel conflicted with multiple competing voices in your head that all seem to want something different. This just leads to rumination and aggravation. You won't recognize new opportunities or possibilities for your life. Your attention is like a narrow beam that can only focus or absorb a few things at a time. And it's conditioned to look for what it already knows. You could be walking past the answers to your prayers every day, and if you're mindless, you'll never even know it. You'll end up making more basic mistakes. You'll break a glass, go through a red light, burn your dinner. When your mind is off wandering someplace else, you do dumb things and you say things you don't mean. You end up making careless mistakes that can harm yourself or even others. Finally, there'll be a sense of disconnection with others in your life. Logistically, if you're not really here in the moment, you can't connect. If your mind's off thinking about other things while you're trying to listen to someone, communication and intimacy are basically impossible. Basically, mindfulness is the simple act of noticing new things. Like when you're in a new city or a foreign country and your attention is piqued. It's about viewing the world with a beginner's mind. It's being more aware of your surroundings. Rather than just seeing what's on your radar or what you're already tuned into, mindfulness is seeing what is in its fullness and entirety. It's paying attention on purpose, setting your intention to focus your attention in the moment. It's being present, being in the now, as Eckhart Tolle says in his book, The Power of Now. It's just allowing the moment to be experienced without judging it. We can call it equanimity, or letting things be as they are, observing without an interpretation or an opinion. So what happens when you bring this practice of mindfulness to your health? Well, being more mindful of your health means you're more able to pay attention to your body, how it feels and what it needs. It's noticing how your attitude and mindset impacts your health, and how your health also in turn impacts your mindset. It's being aware that there's always a healthy choice, and you can make it in every moment. And then it's also mindfully making that appropriate choice that honors your body time after time. Mindfulness in health is recognizing where your food comes from and understanding the impact your food choices have on your health and on our environment. It's being aware of how all areas of your life, such as your career, family, community, the physical environment you occupy, and your relationships, impact your health. And also being aware of how your own health impacts these same areas. Finally, mindfulness-based health is non-judgmentally observing unhealthy blocks, patterns, and habits as they arise in your mind from moment to moment, and then letting them go. So, you can really bring mindfulness to any activity as long as you have the intention to fully being present in that activity. There's formal and informal practice to cultivate this ability. An informal practice could be something like intentionally staying present while washing the dishes, taking a shower, or gardening. More formal practice is something like mindful meditation. This is where you bring your full attention into stillness and silence. Here, you simply observe your fleeting thoughts, emotions, and body sensations to develop greater control and understanding of yourself and how you operate. Another practice is mindful writing. This is, of course, very similar, except you're recording your fleeting thoughts and emotions rather than just mindfully letting them go. Next, we have mindful movement. You can bring mindfulness to any body movement, but traditionally, yoga, tai chi, and qigong were the main practices. Even Westerners like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s said that a single repetition of exercise with full concentration on the muscle yields infinitely better results than 20 repetitions with a wandering mind. So even bodybuilding or running, any sport really, could be a mindful exercise with the right intention. Next, we have mindful eating. This is a practice of bringing full attention to your food and all your senses while you eat. It's a great way to slow down and savor your food, as well as bring awareness to how hungry your body really is and what it really wants. The last practice I'll mention is mindful conversation. This is bringing your full attention and mindfully listening in any conversation, including the coaching conversation. This will generate greater understanding, connection, empathy, and compassion. Mindfulness has been found to positively impact smoking cessation, addiction recovery, and eating disorders. From a psychological or behavioral perspective, here's how it works. Mindfulness creates a window of opportunity for choice. Or in other words, it creates a gap between your thought and an action. Here's an example. When you're on autopilot, you can unconsciously walk from the door to the refrigerator and moments later wake up or come to with an empty bag of chip crumbs, wondering where they all went. Being mindful helps you to observe that first tugging thought to eat a chip and then create space or a window of opportunity to consciously feel into how hungry you really are and then actually choose to eat a chip or not. This window opens up really in every area of your life, creating more freedom to make healthy choices. It promotes broader perspectives and the ability to create responses to emotional triggers. Situations that trigger strong emotional reactions can propel you into a downward spiral of negative thinking and unhealthy choices. During these times, your perception usually narrows and it's hard to see your way out. Mindfulness helps you take a few steps back and look at the situation from multiple perspectives. It helps you to open up to new and creative ideas about how to deal with the situation rather than react in a way that you'd regret later. Mindfulness develops new meaning-making mechanisms. Here's what that means. There's objective reality and there's subjective reality. Objective reality is simply the fact of what is, where subjective reality is the story you tell yourself about it or the meaning you assign to it. As you practice mindfulness and are able to see greater perspectives, you'll start to interpret your past, present, and future circumstances through a more wise, equal-minded, and developed lens. In short, you'll tell a better story about your own life and about yourself. Mindfulness evolves the sense of self and helps you grow past old conditioning and ways of being. You'll struggle and resist if you try to force a new behavior on a same old version of yourself. Mindfulness practice helps you upgrade to a new and expanded concept of yourself where the new healthy behavior just flows naturally. Mindfulness helps you let go of some of those old, outdated ways of operating so you can stop identifying with your bad habits and limiting beliefs. With practice, you'll start to shift into a new version of yourself that has essentially outgrown the stress of your current challenges and conditioning. These benefits of meditation are not just subjective, qualitative testimonials. There's also a strong physiological change in the brain that corresponds to each of these benefits. Here's a simple review of some brain physiology. Neuroplasticity refers to the idea that as the mind changes, the brain changes. Or, as Canadian psychologist Donald Hebb puts it, neurons that fire together wire together. Like physical exercise strengthens your muscle physiology, the mental exercise of mindfulness changes your brain physiology. MRI scans show that seasoned meditators build new synapses or synaptic networks and layers of new blood vessels that bring metabolic supplies such as glucose or oxygen to the different regions of the brain. One region that thickens is the prefrontal cortex. This area of the brain is involved in executive control of attention, or deliberately paying attention to something. This is the rational part of the brain. So, for every time your mind wanders off and you consciously refocus your attention, or cognitively shift, back to the present moment, it's like doing one set of exercises for your brain. The second brain area that gets bigger is a very important part called the insula. This is responsible for tracking the interior state of your own body as well as the feelings of other people. This is the area of the brain that lights up on MRIs when an individual is triggered to feel empathy for someone. So every time you tune into your sensations of your body during meditation, it's like doing a set of exercises to thicken the insula, which helps you become more self-aware and empathetic toward others. Another area of the brain that's impacted is the hippocampus, which improves memory and learning, as well as the amygdala, or the amygdala, which controls fear and aggression. By decreasing blood flow to this area, we're able to control negative thinking. Now that alone is reason to practice every day. Not only do our thoughts and emotions impact our brain, they also affect our autonomic nervous system. Most of us are familiar with the concept of stress response, which is triggered by the sympathetic wing of the autonomic nervous system. This system is more influenced by your thoughts than any other system in the entire body. So when we think stressful thoughts, our body responds as if those thoughts are real. Our body goes into a physiologic state of fight or flight, as if the danger is threatening and immediate. Luckily for us, the practice of mindfulness meditation triggers the opposite of the stress response, which is coined the relaxation response by Dr. Herbert Benson. This is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system, and it sends a signal to the brain that all is well and gives it permission to calm down. With increased practice, you can shift your default way of being from a stress-dominant, chaotic, urgent, and driven state to a more relaxed, dominant, cool, and equal-minded state. And there's so much more that mindfulness also does to our brain waves and to our heart rate coherence that we're going to get into in our coaching this week. But the most important is to remember how mindfulness will help you to change your behavior to reach optimal health.